Hello, welcome back to Tommy's Top Picks, Top 5 Comics for the week of August 24th, 2022. I'm Tommy, joined by Murphy.
Hello.
We're back again with this week's Top 5. So starting off with our number 5 this week is going to be Magic Ajani Goldmane. So this standalone tale introduces new readers to fan favorite planeswalker Ajani Goldmane, while delving into his past adventures and uncovering surprising revelations for the brave healer's current fans. But what happens when the steadfast, valiant protector faces threats beyond his capabilities? So I did want to point this one out because we also do cover Magic and card games on this channel. So wanted to point out that yes, comic books, there are Magic comic books. You can read about Magic lore in comic book form or graphic novel form because they get collected. This is a standalone. It's a one issue. It's not a series. So, but I feel like it is going to be a series of one shots going over starring different planeswalkers. So you can, and then I'm sure they will do a collection of these main characters. What?
This isn't the first one, right?
No, there's been a couple.
Yeah, there've been a couple Magics.
There is an ongoing series.
Oh yeah,
there is. Yeah, I pull the main series. I'm not pulling these side issues, but I do pull the main series. It started. Boom Studios does it. Like they're the ones that do something similar to each other. They do smaller stuff, but somehow they have the Magic IP, which is kind of cool. And I think they do a pretty good job with it.
I think it's a cool concept to have these lore issues. Just even if it's a one-off, like just in like mixing the medias.
And learning about the characters and
comics or shows or movies, like mixing anything to introduce players, Magic players, or even people who don't know anything about Magic, like to these characters. I think
it's cross-pollinating audiences. Maybe some comic book fans will get interested in Magic, and then maybe some Magic players will get interested in comics because they saw this was coming out and decided to pick this up, and they were like, oh, I was always curious about Spider-Man or Batman or whoever or whatever book, and then they start reading that too.
Also, the covers do look badass.
They are pretty cool. The other ones are, let's see.
I mean, there's two virgins and then two other.
I mean, he's a badass character.
He's like a lion with a double-sided axe scythe.
My screen is not working well. But yeah, cool character, cool book. Thought it'd be worth bringing up in our top 5 this week. Moving on to number 4, though, is Star Wars Darth Vader number 26.
So this one, the story's called Into the Sand. So we all know about Anakin Skywalker's aversion to finely ground particulate matter. But what does sand mean to the Dark Lord of the Sith? When Sabe, Vader's unlikely new ally, goes missing, Vader must confront his own dark heart in the maelstrom of a terrible sandstorm, while tapping into one of his earliest skills in a wildly unexpected way. This one, I think, is going to be real cool. So, I know you've been reading a lot of Star Wars recently.
So that's why I wanted to add this to the list, because I have been binging the Marvel canon Star Wars that started in 2015. I finished the original series, and then I'm up to the War of the Bounty Hunters in the current run that started in 2020. It's been incredible. There's been a couple like slowdowns where I've like almost lost interest, but there's been enough to keep me interested, and it switches between a ton of different characters. Now until reaching this event, I had only read just the flagship Star Wars book. And now I'm going back and reading the side books as they come into play in the reading order for
War of the
Bounty Hunters. And so the first one was the Bounty Hunter book. And that book is awesome. It's really cool. Like with Bosk and Balisk and Han, and I don't know, it's a lot of fun. And Boba Fett.
Chewie hates what's his name? Valis? Yeah. Chewie hates him.
But
no, I like this one. I mean, anytime we bring up that Anakin line,
Oh yeah,
Sand.
yeah. This
It's
cover is
gonna be
just
good. But
incredible on so many levels, and just how
in
I even
general,
what?
I just like the Darth Vader series. I
Yeah.
think this series has been like, it's been intense for development sake. Like,
Okay.
we now know a lot more about Darth Vader during these important times. Like, in general, this whole series, since they started the Charles Soule run, like, all of Star Wars has gone so deep with Disney finally taking over and,
Oh, absolutely. And
pumping
that,
out
yeah,
new products.
right.
And I think Darth Vader's the best of them.
You think it's the
Like,
best title?
I think in my opinion, it's the best title out of all the new Star Wars stuff.
Nice. Well, I'm very excited to dig into it. I think it might be next. That or Dr. Aphra. One of the two.
Dr. Aphra's interesting, but I don't know.
It's Vader.
It
It's Vader.
is Vader. Dr.
And then-
Aphra, I think, I don't have anything bad to say about it. I'd put it lower on my list
Like
of the new stuff.
this is the main cover here. And then you have the alt cover. And it's just I feel
Yeah,
like
that cover
Vader
is sweet.
always has sweet covers.
Yeah, it's such an iconic, character. In general,
Yeah.
Darth
Oh,
Vader
absolutely.
Darth Vader is probably more famous than Star Wars itself is.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
He's the most popular thing to come out other
Then
than
a
lightsabers.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than lightsabers.
Cool. Well, we're not
All
done
right, so
talking
moving
about
on.
Star Wars, but we'll move on to number 3 with Amazing Spider-Man number 8. So Spider-Man has a new costume, which we saw at the end of issue 7, just hanging in the closet. And accessories that look vaguely familiar. Is that a glider? So
Yeah.
don't want to spoil too much, but it's pretty obvious who Spider-Man's working with here. But
Yeah, I think it's an interesting twist. I mean, you know me.
yeah, you're the
Anybody who's
Spider-Man
listened,
guy. So what's your
anybody who's
what's your
listened
take?
to our Spider-Man coverage, I want Norman Osborn to be bad again. I like give him his sins back. # Green Goblin. But it is interesting, like the way this story has progressed since Zeb Wells took over fully.
Right.
Like he's just the fact that there was the 6-month time skip that we don't know anything about. Like it's all just like it's still not starting to make sense.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that's an interesting storytelling device for a title like Spider-Man.
Wasn't there an article, I don't remember if we talked about it or if it was just us texting, but an article saying that we wouldn't really see the repercussions from one for like a couple months. And it's been 2 months.
I slightly remember
so
that
maybe
one.
like after this story arc? Because is this, would you say that this is a breaking point for a new,
No,
or
so,
like 2 issues ago?
I mean, when you see issue 6, like, so they did the initial arc, which was Tombstone.
Yeah.
Issues 1 through 5 was Tombstone.
So this is in the middle of the arc. Yeah.
So they had set that up for a while, and then issue 6 was a standalone, basically.
Right.
Like it was issue 900.
Right.
But it was all it did was have, like, it was a story about how the living brain evolved over the years after Spider-Man like ran away from him in issue 8.
Right.
Of Spider-Man. So it was just this standalone series, and now seemingly they're starting to bring the Sinister Six back. Like that's what issue 6 was all about, was the living brain used the Sinister Six to answer the question, like, who is Spider-Man? Not like he's Peter Parker, but like who is he? And then this one has some good Vulture action that brings in stuff. So I think they're starting to bring back the classic villains. And I'm pretty excited for it because as much as I liked everything they've done, I know they're leading towards Dark Web, which is
Right.
supposed to be new villains and things like that. But I like that right now, while we don't really know anything that's going on, they're using the old villains in a good way.
So maybe
That being said, I still want Norman Osborn to just be bad again. Like,
Well,
as cool as this suit is.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Maybe we get 2 more issues of this, and that gets us to issue 10. That closes an arc or closes.
It's not even an arc, really. Is the
well, it's like
part.
It would
like,
still be printed as like a trade. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then issue 10 would come out, or 11, and that would start the new.
Yeah.
Because it's 2 issues a month, so that's 1 month is 2 issues. So that would still be in that time frame of about when I think that article said that we would start figuring out what happened in issue 1.
My only hope for ASM is just that, like, this run is a long run. Like,
yeah, I do too.
You know, Nick Spencer did what, 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, and that's great. But right before that, we had Dan Slott for like 13 years.
Right, a while, yeah.
And he did such amazing things for the story and for the character that I'm hoping that, you know, this one's starting out slow, but I hope it means that we're going to get it for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
Plus John Romita Jr. always.
I don't know. That's honestly the part that concerns me is his commitment level to things.
Well, so he doesn't do every issue.
Right. And I know. So
he does every cover.
Right.
But not every issue.
Right. Like I could see Zeb Wells being part of it for a really long time, but I'm unfortunately predicting another like Otley situation where we were promised the world and we were all excited for about 20 issues, and then the run kept going, but not as the full creative team. But we'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong. So
right.
But moving on.
All right, so that
to
moves us on to
number
2, which is going to be Rogues Gallery number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So after years portraying a popular comic book character, the Red Rogue, Maisie Wade is ready to retire the spandex suit. But when her abrupt exit from the Red Rogues TV series leads to its cancellation, Maisie finds herself targeted by a group of unhinged home invaders who want to teach her a lesson. So this one, we had kind of gotten a little excited about. It was an Image number 1, you know. But having read the first issue, I'm super pumped for this one.
Yeah, you're sold.
Like it's kind of like watching, you know, The Strangers, but fully from, like, the first issue at least was fully from the side of the people breaking into the house.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's only like all you see is like them reacting to her on TV, and like it says here, like her retiring from the show and stuff like that. So it's just like a bunch of comic book nerds reacting to a show that they think ruins the IP.
Okay. So they think there's the 2 sides, and then maybe the 3rd issue will be like the confrontation.
I think that like the first one sets up them going to be invaders, and then I think the second one's going to show her side of everything, and then the third one's going to finally be the actual like showdown,
the night
where seemingly she's like she's actually trained because she's played this character for like 10 years,
right,
and she's like a Black Widow type, you know, so she's just ready to go,
right,
versus like 5 people.
True.
So I think this one's going to be an interesting one. I like that it's a short series too, with Image. You know, we've talked about how Image is doing that these days.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm down with that. I think that it's one of those stories that if it was longer, it might just ruin it.
That's fair.
You know, maybe it could have been 5 issues, but nothing more than that.
Or it could be just like a mini series that then spawns an ongoing. So I know a lot of artists or creative teams will put together short book like this that they can then put on a shelf and sell as a trade. And
Yeah.
then if it garners enough interest and there's enough demand, then move forward with an ongoing. But to just less and less people are, I see a trend of more people going this route than jumping immediately into an ongoing, be like, this brand new ongoing. And then around issue 4 or 5, you find out it's actually a limited series of 12
Right.
or 6 or so.
Yeah, so having just read this one, anybody who's listened to these videos, I'm gonna say this one I think everyone should read.
Yeah.
It's
And it's only going to be 3 issues. Yeah, so you pick up.
I think it's I think it's gonna be violent. I think it's gonna be goofy. I think it's gonna be a good, action thriller comic.
Cool. Well, moving on to our number 1, I said we were not done talking about Star Wars because our number 1 is Star Wars Hyperspace Stories number 1. So this is Dark Horse coming back to the Star Wars universe alongside Marvel. They were doing they were also doing the partner all ages Star Wars book for the High Republic was also Dark Horse. So this is also an all new, all ages adventures throughout the galaxy when the members of the Republic mission led by Senator Padme Amidala are abducted by the ruthless separatist General Grievous. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi jump to the rescue, but the operation quickly goes awry and the Jedi find themselves cut off and surrounded by an army of battle droids. Danger and deception at the height of the Clone Wars in Star Wars Hyperspace number 1. So this is an all ages Star Wars book. It is Dark Horse again. It is, I don't know. I'm interested in picking it up just to see
I enjoy
what all ages Star Wars is now, I guess.
You didn't read any of the High Republic Adventures stuff?
No.
So the High Republic stuff was really cool, and it also had a lot of first appearances that I think are going to matter, speculation-wise down the road.
Okay.
But this one, I mean, like we've talked about before with the Obi-Wan series and anything like that, it's like Clone Wars. You give me a Clone Wars story with Padme, Anakin, and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Also, you find those 3 surrounded by a bunch of battle droids. Like, what's going to happen?
True.
They're going to kill them all.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one I think is really exciting. And, I mean, Star Wars is just killing the game right now.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole universe. Doesn't matter who's putting them out, who's writing them. I think they're all great right now.
And it's not even like just in comics. It's like it's in shows, it's in movies, it's in games. Like the board game Star Wars thing. I'm diving kind of maybe a little too deep into it right now. And it's not a problem of what is there a Star Wars game, like board game, card game, or whatever that I want to play. And it's which one do I have time to play? Like our podcast this week, if you're interested, we talked about too many games, or there's too many things to do, and how do you focus and how do you get there? And Star Wars has gripped me in a way an IP hasn't in a while. I usually like dip into a ton of different IPs all the time, whether it's DC, Marvel, Magic, Flesh and Blood, like all these different IPs, and I'm constantly juggling all of them. But recently Star Wars has just had this grip on me. I read the novel, I'm reading a second, listening to an audiobook, reading the comics, and there's 2 tabletop games that I am learning how to play. One is X-Wing, which is a pre-painted like space ship thing game, where you basically have 2 sets of ships, and then you basically figure out what you're going to do, and then it all activates, and you see how the turn played out, like both you and your opponent. And then there's
it's like a dogfight?
Like a dogfight Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Miniatures game. And then there's Legion, which is like boots on the ground Warhammer,
all out
like Star Wars Warhammer. And So there's so much to get into, and as someone that likes to dive very deep into IP, it's a slippery slope, but it's a lot of fun, and it's been a journey.
I mean, I think in general, just like Star Wars was a cultural phenomenon, like we talked about with Darth Vader. It's like Darth Vader is one of the most iconic movie villains of all time.
Absolutely, yeah. Like other villains get called the Darth Vader of X, Darth Vader of Y.
And Star Wars, yes, it had other content, but now that we're dealing, like, I think that when Disney first took over, everyone was like, wow, now all this content's gone.
Right.
But now I think that they're putting out so much good content that all of it deserves a play or a read or a watch.
Right.
Like I think that and as a Star Wars diehard, it's really doing it for me.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Like I have a box.
I do want to say too.
I have an embarrassing amount of unpainted Star Wars minis that I need to paint.
Oh yeah, you got to paint them.
I
do want to say that we put the main line Star Wars 26 on our top 5. It is now the #1 selling comic currently.
Hey.
Yeah, it has a bunch of first appearances. So if you get a chance, still go pick that up. Like right now, it's going for. Yeah, just pick up Star Wars 26. If not to read, but purely for speculation and selling.
What did you say it was up to?
I'm not exactly sure, but it's selling. I think it was like $25 for a raw, and it's been out for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, not even. Yeah, I guess about
like a week and a half. Something.
Yeah.
Well, since almost it was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a week.
Yeah.
So I think just Star Wars in general is killing the game.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, and I'm here for it. Like, especially if we get more Clone Wars.
Oh, I can't wait. I hope we get like a true Clone Wars book.
Yeah. Like just straight up. give us new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more about Star Wars as I dive into this IP journey. But is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No,
Cool.
Just check out Star Wars in every fashion.
Do it because it's fun. And Andor is coming. Like,
yeah, we've talked about it.
It's a problem. There's not enough hours in the day. But until next week, with next week's top 5. Enjoy reading your comics. Let us know what your top pick is for the week. And we'll talk to you in the comments about them. So we'll talk to you guys later.
See ya.